All right, so how have you been, girl? It's so good to see you. It's
You
been a
too.
while.
I know it's been, yeah, it's been a while. And it's been a while, but also like a filled while.
Yeah. What have you been doing? What?
Oh, it's this times, right? And what have I not been doing? I mean, really focusing on what your podcast is about, which is radiating, because there is
Mhm.
so much right now that we can get lost in.
Yeah.
And I just saw a post yesterday. Somebody was making a funny post about, hey, half my feed is about democracy dying, and half my feed is about grow your business. And people were making fun, like being light about it. That's what's going on in my head right now. That's totally me. And then one person said, and this is not a judgment, it's just what is. Oh, I can't post anything about my business right now. There's too much else to fight for.
Mm.
And
Interesting to
I
fight.
know. Yeah. And that's the conversation I am in with myself because I know that it's really important to do the work we are doing. Like,
Mhm.
I mean,
Absolutely.
so important. I every single day I am more and more convinced that this is the work we get to do. But on the other hand, there is so much that's happening that just isn't right, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah, for sure. And there's so many, I just feel like there's so many like emotions around that.
Yeah.
And so what I created the Inner Radiance podcast for was how do we show up in these times?
Yeah.
How do we show up when it doesn't make sense? When things
Hmm.
are they're not just like they just don't feel right.
Yeah.
And the Inner Radiance podcast was birthed out of my own 10-year period of darkness when I went through a divorce, which didn't feel right, and it was an end of a dream. And then on top of that, I lost a custody battle, and that just didn't seem right at all.
Yeah.
And it was really, really dark. And within that time, thankfully, that's when I kind of realized that it's the darkness that asks us to come into the heart, connect with the heart, and that through that we can really become lighter people.
Yeah.
But with the right tools and the skills, and so over the years, I've interviewed you several times, and I've interviewed some of the most fascinating people that I just
Mhm.
you left me a better person after being in your space. And so
Mhm.
I've dedicated this space to featuring people who have transformed me just being either physically
Mhm.
with them or on shows or connected to. And I want to feature the light that is happening in the world and people who have the tools and the skills to help people find and access, whether it's for your business, your marriage, whatever it is,
Mhm.
but find that light within them.
Mhm.
And I welcome you, Anna, to the Inner Radiance podcast. It feels so right that you're one of my
Mhm.
first guests because
Oh,
truly over the
thank you.
years, I've loved our conversations.
Mhm.
And so, welcome everybody, Anna. And Anna
Thank you.
transforms paradigms by bridging practical approaches to success with holistic personal development. She blends her background in finance, real estate, and other traditional experience with the expertise of in metaphysical and transformational coaching, specializing in empowering others and redefining success on their own terms. We're certainly in a paradigm shift.
Mhm.
And, within all of that, what is new? What do we get to create? And that's what I love talking to you about is like
Mhm.
being in that paradigm shift. And then what do we do with
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I'll tell you a few things that are already coming in, Carrie, and is this
mhm,
even with what you share with what you are coming up against in your life, like, wow, this is like, it is so unjust. And it's, everybody's going through something right now. Like, I don't know any person who is like, everything is just great because even when some things are great, there is this other part that's like really not working.
mhm,
And not working means they would prefer it wasn't happening that way, you know?
correct. Yeah.
And even my own, I mean, at this moment when we are recording, I am in reevaluation of my relationship because it is going through, we are choosing to end it. And it's logistically a bit of a murky thing. And I work in transformation. So I'm a trainer in transformation. So I'm in I'm in the middle of breakdowns with people all the time, meaning there is like constantly something going on, and it's been more and more so.
Mhm.
So as I'm sharing this, I have this like a huge it's happening within me, so I'm gonna share it. It's like here
Yeah,
we are, little tiny people with our little tiny problems, which are really big for us. Like,
exactly. Because
yes,
they're emotional. It's
yes,
emotional. Yeah.
yes, and it feels scary and it feels uncertain. But this is on a background of what I also know it's true, which is like a human experience that is thousands of years in the making. Like some are equating this time to when Atlantis disappeared, like really big. There are many cycles that are coming to an end and new ones starting over the next couple of decades. And
Mhm.
there are epochs that are ending, like some, and I actually believe that it's true, that it's like humanity is choosing how we'll move forward, and either we'll perish as a civilization and there'll be a new one, because that's what happened several times before. We have
Mhm.
historical evidence for it.
Mhm.
Or we will be the beings of light and we will be the new evolution of life on planet Earth, because planet Earth is going through a shift.
Mhm.
So it's for me, it's like constantly choosing this, like, oh, but this my big problem is actually just part of me moving through something in a way that will either move humanity this way or this way, you know?
I feel like I'm steering my ship this way or I'm steering my ship that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Yeah.
it's like being truly in like connection to that moment to moment. It keeps me out of my personal overwhelm,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
every moment I get to choose something, and I get to choose either be angry or hurt, and doesn't mean I don't feel these things,
Hmm.
but how I be with it is going to contribute one way or another,
Yep.
you
That's
know?
yeah, let's unpack that because I feel the same way and I'm sorry that you're going through a change in
And I'm
relationship.
good with it. Look at it. I'm like,
Yeah, I get it. I get it because when you end a cycle, it's like liberation. You get to open up to what's next. And I feel like there's so many endings and beginnings that are simultaneous. And we get to be with it. But also, what I feel you're saying in all of this is you're being with your power in all of it, which is saying that it's happening for you, it's coming to you. There's a way through it,
mhm,
and how you are moment to moment with it is kind of defining whether or not you're creating what has been, which isn't maybe working. But
yeah,
there's a lot of things that have been that do work, but maybe
yeah,
it hasn't worked up until now. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to consciously choose the direction that I want to go,
mhm,
which is power. It's
yeah,
really powerful.
yeah, yeah. And very often it means standing in a face of judgment, because
Yeah.
people are, I mean, I don't know, is this your experience? Like, not everybody around me gets it. I mean, I'm very mindful of who I surround myself with, but um, part of the work that I do is as a trainer, I don't get to choose who is in front of me. They just, they show up and I get to work with them. In
Hmm.
my other business, I'm very conscious who I
Hmm.
serve, but as a trainer, I take on that I train whoever's in front of me. And
Yeah.
there are a lot of people who really don't get it, and people who are taking sides, politically and other ways. And so it's like constantly knowing who I am. This is really what's coming through, Carrie, and like constantly like knowing who I am. And it doesn't mean it's fixed, but like this is what I believe, but it doesn't make you wrong for what you believe. And
Right.
right.
Oh, that's unity. I mean, yeah, I totally get that because I think the greatest lesson we have as human beings is acceptance of what is. I mean, truly the acceptance of
Hmm.
what is, so that we can allow for that greater love to come through. And that's
Yeah.
not an easy thing to do,
No.
especially when you're, if you're training people, they're showing up and you're training them to see to open up to perspective, right? To open up
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
trust and perspective.
Hmm.
And if they're very, I feel like people who are set in their ways right now are going to
Ooh.
have very difficult
Yep.
lives, because now is really a period of grow,
Yeah.
know where you're going, like really tap into what motivates you, what drives you, know what direction you want to be going in, and set the
Hmm.
coordinates for that
Yeah. And stay focused.
and stay
Yeah.
focused. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So what you said is so, I think it's so powerful. People who have a set point of view and are not willing to consider anything else doesn't mean they have to change what they believe, but just consider that that's not the only point of view or that's not the
Mm.
only way things are. Those people will have a very tough time because so much is changing. I mean, things that we would never fathom 10 years ago are happening right now.
Mhm.
I mean, atrocious things have been happening for humanity for a long time, but like even politically, like, there was something that happened a few years ago that I never thought I would cry over in politics because I'm not that connected to it, but I cried when it happened. I don't want to talk about it because I don't want, it's not that I'm avoiding the topic, but I don't want people who believe a certain way to not listen to the rest of it because I think what
Yeah.
we're creating is
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
See, that's another thing. Like,
Right.
not
Do
that I,
I have to worry about whether
yeah,
or not it is? It's so hard
yeah,
because on one end, we're being told to use our voices as
yeah,
women, and whatever, and here's what I've learned with myself is like, whatever my voice is in the moment, can it be accepted?
yes, yeah,
Right? And
absolutely. Yeah.
some of the things that I'm going through right now is I'm deepening my honesty with myself. And it's been an emotional journey over the
Mm-hmm.
last several months. And I've been crying more just for no reason. I'm just feeling
Mm-hmm.
deeper. It's like um whether it's collective grief or my own, oh man, Carrie, you're falling, you're letting yourself fall short in this department. And one of the things I'm going through with my husband now is I'm giving myself permission to be 100% honest with how I feel. And however he meets me in that honesty, I'm getting that feedback. And it's like I'm realizing that there's gaps in acceptance and love. And of course, if we're mirroring one another, I'm saying, oh my goodness. So if I'm getting this feedback that there's some non-acceptance here of what
Mm-hmm.
is, then how am I putting that out into the marriage? And there's just
Yeah.
so much internalization going on right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But also this how do we use our voices
Mm-hmm.
authentically?
Yeah. Yeah. And it does start with the immediate relationship. So yeah,
The
immediate is
closest
with,
ones.
yeah.
Yeah.
So immediate is with myself, but really I can't reflect myself to myself. I can only do so much. So
Yeah.
yeah, so the closest one is the partner, is, the people who we spend most of the time with.
Hmm.
Yeah. And just like really being radically honest. And what does it even mean? So, and then, it's one thing to be radically honest with our emotions, but then also as people who like you and I are choosing hold on, I'm gonna sneeze.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So I think that anyone who has any platform, and it doesn't matter the number of followers, we also are being in responsibility for what we create, for what we say, in a way that, like, I'm mindful. I have very strong opinions and I do share them some places,
Hmm.
but I also want to serve people.
Hmm.
I want people to benefit from what I have to share. And if
Yeah.
I share something like a strong opinion, they may say, well, just because you believe that, I don't want to listen to everything else. And we do
Hmm.
that. We do
Hmm.
that,
It's a
right? Like,
cancel culture. It's a cancel
absolutely.
culture.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. And we cancel people all the time. I mean, it doesn't have to be on social media. Like, somebody looks a certain way, cancel, I'm not listening to you.
Hmm.
Somebody drives a certain way, cancel, I'm not. So we do it all the time. but so it's like being radically honest, but also being in responsibility for for the role that we're choosing, and then where does it stop? Like, where am I? I was listening to an interview yesterday, and apparently, if you say word chakra, certain platforms won't let you post it. So hopefully, it's not YouTube.
Because
But
you just said it. And
because I just
like,
said
well.
it. But isn't it crazy? I mean, come on now. But it's apparently happening on some of the platforms. If you use words like that, that are, speaking to an alternative,
Ah, that's
that,
interesting.
yeah. So it's all of that. And that makes us very wobbly. Like, I can't even rely on what I can or cannot say, because the policy will change, and then I won't be able
Mm,
to serve, you know?
mhm, mhm.
Or
It's,
people, mhm.
go ahead.
Yeah, or people won't listen because they don't like, perhaps my political view, or,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting, and I think what I'm what I'm finding is that the stronger you are in your integrity, whether or not whether it's like a political view or what you stand for in the world, and the more you stand in that as your inner constitution, then through natural selection,
yeah,
like people
people
are going to
will.
say, yeah, hey, I know that what I've been experiencing lately has been this shift in serving people who are really going to be the builders of
Yeah,
the new rather than the people who are just waiting for it to happen.
yeah,
And some of the agitation that I've had in my own business evolution, it was going through a period of time where I was serving the people who just wanted to feel good rather than the people who were actually going to create,
yeah,
I'm hitting something, whether the people who are actually going to go through the transformative process and
yeah.
say, I can't bypass any of this stuff. I
Hmm.
can't, if I'm going to create this, it's up to me. And that's
Yeah.
one reason why I love coming back to you, Anna, because I know that, even me saying like the people who just want to feel good and have it all happen for them,
Oh,
I don't think, and this is a judgment, I don't think that those people are going to have the outcome of life that they think is going to happen, meaning nobody is going to come and save you.
no. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
transformation is grit.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
grit.
yeah, and that's some people who may not be as consciously aware, but are willing to stand in a fire, may be the builders of the new, even if they
Mm.
don't know, because they're willing to stand in a fire. And
Mm.
they may have the awakening overnight because of the fires they moved through, right? And some
Yes.
people who have been doing the work to be consciously awake and meditate and journal and burn candles,
Mhm. Yep.
mhm,
Yep.
meditate the new earth onto this vibration, they may not experience it, or not as fast, or not as beautifully, because
Right.
they're not willing to do the work. So right on, Carrie. It's
I feel like there's a split. I feel like there's a
yeah,
definite split.
yeah,
And I guess for me, because I'm a builder, I'm like, do you know what standing in the fire? It actually creates this inner combustion.
yeah.
That inner combustion is a rapid transformation. And the
Mhm.
rapid transformation, it's about just being able to go through it and then getting on the other side and realizing that that's the life that you've been asking for. Whether
Mhm.
it's going through a divorce and then saying, okay, well, this is actually getting me in direct alignment with the love of my life. Or,
Mhm.
for me, it was like losing your kids, but realizing that you were actually becoming the mom that your kids needed you to be, and saying, okay, I'm ready. Like, I'm willing to stand in that transformation and be in the fire with it and see what happens on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
we're in a culture right now where we're kind of like waiting to see. And I think to your point of like the minute to minute thing, it's like, why wait and see? Because I feel like the people who are waiting and seeing, they're kind of like, they can get kind of lost in
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of the darkness. But the creating is like, well, no, you have power in this moment
Yeah.
to decide to discern who you want to be, what direction
Yeah.
you want to go, how
Hmm.
you want to face this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you and I are 100% in alignment in that for sure that and I'm with you. I'm not interested in serving people who want to feel good. It's
Hmm.
feeling good is a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you can feel good going through the fire too, right?
Sure.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
talking about like the people who are love and light. I'm going to wait it out. I'm going to meditate my way through it. And
Hmm.
meditation is powerful. Let's not do it. But it is like I think we are consciously choosing what we're creating next.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's such a fascinating time because even as you are saying it, as you are sharing about like what you the fires you've gone through already, and somebody might say like, oh wow, like what would it take to lose the custody? And I'm like, wow, but you spoke to it so beautifully. What did it had you become on the other side?
Yeah.
And
What was the
it's
purpose behind it? There was a
yeah,
purpose behind all of it.
yeah, that otherwise would have not had you become the person, that version of you. So there is that conversation too. Like, what if you don't know what you hear? Like, what's your piece to birth? What's your piece to create until you become that version?
Hmm.
Like some people know like, okay, this is my vision and I have to become the person who creates it. I
Right.
believe that a lot of us won't even know truly what it is until we go through the process and go through the pain and go through the fire. And
Hmm.
then when we are that version, then we are in a community, and then the pieces fall in and we're like, oh, this is
This
why.
is why.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that there's a lot of that happening right now. And there's a lot of people who maybe don't know that what's actually happening is you're being built, you're being birthed, you're being prepared, you're being asked to become.
Yeah.
And that is the evolutionary process, right? And it can't happen without the breakdown. And I
Yeah.
think what I see energetically has been a lot coming forward that has to do with foundations that are crumbling. And whether or not that's a marriage or
Hmm.
finances or whatever, it's
Yeah.
not when we hear crumbling, we're like, oh my God, no, I want to hold it all together. And the thing about the crumbling or the crushing, and this is just a God thing, is that
Yeah.
the it wasn't built to sustain whatever the extraordinary
Hmm.
gift that the universe wants to give to you. And
Yeah.
so the alignment is what is happening for so many
Yeah.
people, but it looks like pain. Like it
Yeah.
looked like it was the worst thing that ever happened to me when I lost custody of my kids. And on that very day, I saw God in the sky saying, I'm with you. And
Hmm.
I learned that the crushing and the breakdown and the heartbreak was really just the birth.
Yeah.
It was the birth. And,
Yeah.
like I didn't know that on the other side of it, I would gain two stepsons who were amazing and that my family would be rebuilt and that I'd
Hmm.
marry my soulmate. I didn't know that that was all there, but it came forward after I was willing to
Hmm.
say,
Yeah.
well, I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Some people are not going to have a choice because
But
yeah,
you had a choice in how you be with it,
I
right?
had a choice and how it could have broke me
Yeah.
or it built me.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that that's a big thing right now for
Yeah.
humanity. It's either going to break you or it's going to build you.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's in all areas of life. So for like when COVID started, um, I knew intuitively something, it wasn't just a day or a month. Like I knew something big was happening that will have a lasting impact, that it was
Yeah.
like a milestone for humanity. It's not
Hmm.
like, I didn't see it, but I knew something. And we started to talk about foundations will crumble. And
Hmm.
it sounds so like, yeah, the old has to go away. It's not working. It worked for a
Hmm.
while and it's not going to work. Like it has to go away. There's too much corruption. There's too much mingling. There's too, like, it's got to go.
Hmm.
But even now, as it's happening, I mean, it's not like it's very, very connected to everything that's happening, but I also don't want to be completely removed from it. And some
It,
people really want
yeah,
to. I don't. I want to be present to what's going on. I want
right.
to be present to a news that's coming out that they should. I don't even know if this is true because I haven't put it through some kind of a test, but educational Department of Education in
I
United
heard
States is
that.
being shut down. Like, is that for real?
I saw something about people being fired.
Fired.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that would be unfathomable even 5 years ago. We would, I mean, people like we might have known it at some degree because we knew something would has to happen. Education isn't working. It's
Change,
part of the, yeah.
yeah, but how?
But
Right?
how, right?
How?
So, and now here we are. And where we are is that literally people are getting fired. So now a lot of people will be in a panic mode. This is
Right.
why the inner
Yes.
radiance, I love it.
Yeah.
People will be in a panic mode. First of all, you're supposed to have a tenure and it's a guarantee. Go be a teacher because once you have a tenure, you will have a great money and you'll have money forever because you'll be paid. Well, Social Security is being shut down. Did you hear that? Like, I don't know exactly if it's a phase out, but I just saw it yesterday that there were like thousands of people who didn't get a check. And I don't want to make sure that I don't come across as not compassionate, but years ago I started to talk about, and I know
Yes.
you too,
Yes.
make
Yep.
sure you have a way to make money. Make sure you're
Yes.
not relying on
Yes.
systems,
Absolutely. And
you
I
know?
was a teacher.
Yeah, so
I
you,
was a
yeah,
teacher.
it's right.
And so when I was in the school system as, waking up, and this was 10 years ago, I retired. I was asking, I was asking like, how do I release this? Because I felt this cracking, this breaking,
Hmm.
and I felt the collective cries of my colleagues of
Hmm.
that, like this agenda or whatever we're on. And teachers are some of the most compassionate,
Yeah.
loving,
Hmm.
heart-centered, hardworking people. And I come from a lineage of them. And yet I remember um, the last opening day, I was pregnant with my last daughter, and I was sitting in this huge auditorium, and there was one thing after another that the state was pouring down to the teachers. And
Hmm.
I just felt the air in the room just go,
Wow.
that here we are, we're coming into another school year, and here we are again just underwater with agenda
Requirements. Yeah.
requirements. And that was when, I was like, well, the school, I it doesn't serve, and it's not
Hmm.
going to serve the children.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my heart breaks for people who are losing things, but I also stand on the other end of it saying, you know what? I I left an $80,000 tenured sweet teaching job
Hmm.
willingly. I was broke. And what did I do the next day, the next year
Yeah.
after I could? I learned to grow a business.
Hmm.
I said, how do I take what I know, what I couldn't teach in school because it was, you know, you
Not okay. He
can't
wasn't
talk, you
allowed.
can't talk about mindfulness, you can't talk about being a
Yeah.
whole being or emotions or anything. And
Hmm.
I started to build my own business.
Yeah.
I started to generate my
Yeah.
own income.
Yeah.
And did I have to give up some things momentarily? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I had to
Hmm.
drive an old car. I had to,
Boo.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
right. I had to drive an old car, and I didn't have like all the, beautiful clothes or anything like that. And I had to give up some momentary things.
Hmm.
But you know
Yeah.
what? When I was broke and building my own business, I was incredibly empowered because
Yeah.
I'm like, I've got freedom in that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there's like a purpose for every crumbling situation right now. And I
Hmm.
do believe it is meant to bring us into
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah. 100%. So, yeah, so even following with that thread, imagine the builders, those who are conscious, or maybe to some
Mhm.
degree, conscious,
Mhm.
they imagine them saying, well, I know what would work, and they start something in the
And they start
schools.
doing what would
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
And
cool.
yeah, and it might be challenging at first because there'll be powers to be that will, try to make it not so. But if enough of us come together and say, well, actually, and this is already happening, I actually know, just a memory popped in. If enough people say, we're going to come together, and 20 of our kids will come together, and we are going to pay this teacher or these 2 to 3 teachers to begin to teach this way.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, a private school opens up. Now,
That's how charter schools started.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we get to be mindful that we don't also create like just the death, because that would be just recreating or creating the opposite. What I think we have an opportunity is to just begin to ask, then what would it look like? What could it look like, right? Like
If
what?
we could
Yeah,
have what we've been asking for, because
yeah,
everybody's desire is like, here's how God meets us in this chaos. Is like God's hearing the collective desire. And the way that God delivers blessings is so irrational, so freakishly unfair sometimes that the rug does get pulled out from under
yeah.
you. But then it's time to innovate. It's
Mm-hmm.
time to innovate. It's time to say, okay, well, wait a minute. This might be what I've been asking for, the
Yeah.
hidden gem in, the pile of
Mm-hmm.
SHIT. And I do
Yep.
swear on this podcast. I don't know if it's allowed, but
We'll
it's
find
like
out.
that's if we zone out, if we pull out of, to your point when you were saying about, the perspective that I'm taking on my ending and beginning in my marriage. If I zoom out of it, it's like it's just part of the collective. And if we zoom out of what's happening in education, that hasn't truly been verified, but with any of the systems that are crumbling, what is the innovation that gets to be created?
Yeah.
And who are the innovators?
Yeah.
And take that and run with it, because that's
Yes.
a gift.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you don't know how to do that, and also create, an income, a lifestyle that is what is truly a dream for you, then find Anna, find anyone on
Find
the
support,
podcast.
because there are people
Yeah,
who are
find
doing it.
support.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But so there is one more thing you said, that I think is really, really powerful. A lot of people were hiding in the systems. Hiding meaning, like the cushy job, or, or promise of, retirement fund or whatever it was. And they, in order to not rock the boat, and I'm sure you are an amazing teacher, and if you continue to be a teacher, your gifts would come forward, but they wouldn't look the same way they do
Right,
right
right,
now,
right.
you
Because of the
know?
container, right? Because of
Right.
the, what I
Hmm.
required to grow was a community. I
Yeah.
required, a coach, a leader, and people who were side by side with me
Yeah.
working for that same
Yeah,
vision or the same
exactly.
goal. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, it's not okay to talk about soul. It's not okay to talk about spirit. It's not okay to talk about oneness in a public school. So you couldn't
Hmm.
speak to those things in a way that you do, or God, it's just not okay. So there are a lot of people that have tremendous gifts that were hiding in the systems
Mm.
with the jobs, with the paycheck,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
now let's those teachers all of a sudden they're like, well, I always wanted to, I have this way that I know would support children with a certain learning
Mm.
style. And all
Right.
of a sudden they create a whole, curriculum, and they gifts come through that way, and then they get expand. So a lot of people, I mean, and sometimes people have been hiding in jobs that are completely incongruent who they are,
Hmm.
just because of a system
Paycheck.
support
Or
and protection. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I can think of several offhand that I know. And it's like, for me, I guess I chose to leave because it was no longer
Hmm.
congruent with my lifestyle. But there's a lot of people who God wants to innovate
Yeah.
and to create, and like you said, they've been holding on, I think, out of fear of letting go, or
Yeah.
not knowing how to take those next steps. And there's a bridge to getting where you are now, which might be, oh my gosh, I'm facing this like
Hmm.
life changing
Yeah.
thing, and it feels a little scary. And what we want to say is, we've been there,
Yep.
and here's the bridge. Here are the tools, here are the
Hmm.
skills.
Yeah.
Because shifting into talking about wealth, I understand that every soul that chooses a purpose and a pathway has infinite wealth
Well.
to
Mhm.
create. And knowing what I know about the transfer of wealth and the transfer of power, the transfer and the money, the
Yeah.
amazing money, and I'm seeing this in my own life through my own very eyes, is coming to the people who are helping those people bridge, or the innovators who are stepping forward and saying, I
Hmm.
have a gift.
Hmm.
And it's meant for not just me, my family, but it's meant to be a template, a blueprint, and something that is going to change the direction of the world.
Hmm.
And that gets me excited.
Yeah,
Though it is
absolutely.
coming through chaos, but chaos is the predecessor to the order of the divine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And allowing that inner spark that we have been protecting, pretending it's not there, trying to make it something different just to fit into the old paradigm, to the old
Yeah.
structures, and
Yeah.
saying, you know what?
Ah.
I'm going to take a jump and I'm going to go through the discomfort. And like you said, it may mean you may have to give up your home and live somewhere else. You may have to drive a certain car. Like I've gone through that. I've gone through all of those things too, where
Mhm.
I gave up a car for 6 months. And
Mhm.
at the time it was a choice, but the choice that I made allowed me to then make an investment in something.
Yes. Yeah,
So I didn't,
absolutely. It
so I
was.
didn't I didn't even know I was doing it. I was actually doing it as a stretch, stretch myself into making different choices. But as
Mhm.
a result, I was able to make then an investment that otherwise I wouldn't have because my funds were appropriated differently. So it's,
Mhm.
and I've had a lot, I lost a lot, and all of those things. So people who are very fixed, going back to that, people who are very fixed in how they see things or how things should be or how they need things to be, those will be the ones who will have a very, very hard time.
Mhm.
So relying on that inner spark, connecting to what am I being guided to? I may not understand it. I may not see the whole picture, but as
Mhm.
long as I follow something that I am sensing is so solid in me, and I'll
Mhm.
just keep going no matter what.
Yeah. I
I
love
think,
that.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
those of us are the ones who will truly secure that there is a different experience for humanity.
Secure that there is a different experience. I love that you said that, because to me it's like that's the known. The
Hmm.
known is what your inner spark is meant to secure foundationally as definitive
Hmm.
for where we go forward. And that is truly being a leader of light,
Yeah.
because you're just willing to stand in it. You're willing to say, this is the direction, this is what's calling to me, this is what I'm willing to give up temporarily. And maybe it
Yeah.
is a car, maybe it is, for me it was a car, it was an identity of being a mom.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm willing to anchor in.
Yeah.
It's like
Hmm.
what sparks up my light. And for me, it's always been relationships, love, wealth,
Mm.
the
Yeah.
things that I knew that I was missing in my life, and having that, like that full life without
Hmm.
sacrifice.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, there was a short-term sacrifice.
Hmm.
It's the
Yeah.
letting go of what truly doesn't work or isn't aligned
Yeah.
for that bigger
Hmm.
experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And isn't that, I mean, that's what makes me wake up every morning these days. I don't have a big long-term plan because I never felt actually that it was something that's going to work for me to have a big long-term plan. And I
Mhm.
think where we are right now, we actually can't long-term plan because it's not gonna.
Everything that I've tried to plan, whether it's been a weekend with my kids, a vacation, or just something I'm creating in my business, it hasn't worked out. And what
Hmm.
I find, what I find is when I actually let go of what I think I need to create, I'm guided to what I need to
Yeah,
create.
yeah.
And, that's in every aspect of my life, whether it was a Disney vacation that spontaneously came up when my husband and I were watching TV, to, going to Egypt, having a
Hmm.
dream about Egypt and saying, oh my gosh, I'm going there in April. And that wasn't on my radar.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
all of these things are like, I find the abundance of
Yeah.
the universe.
Yeah, absolutely. Right on. Yeah. And then being open to changing things around to follow whatever it is that you are being. called to be a part of,
Yeah.
just yeah. And we're still considering. So I'm not saying being irresponsible or just, being flaky about things, but also being super open, solid enough in yourself. That's what keeps coming through, Carrie, like in our conversation, is that
Hmm.
it's that solidity within me. Like nothing around me is solid. I mean, we knew it energetically, we knew it mentally that that's the case,
Hmm.
but really it's becoming more and more important in my experience. It's that the only thing I can count on is what's inside of me that I don't even know yet completely.
Yes.
And I am the source of solidity and security and safety. And it has like a whole new meaning to me these days.
Hmm. I love it. The I am. I
Yeah.
am. I
Yeah.
am. I am the creator. I'm solid, the
Mm-hmm.
foundation. I
Yeah.
and I yeah, because what I'm finding too is no matter how strong the relationship is, marriage wise or parenting or whatever, it always comes back to the choices that you're making. It always
Yeah.
comes back to whether or not you're being the steward, the captain. Um,
Yeah.
what way is your sail? What direction are you setting that
Mm-hmm.
sail or that compass, and
Yeah.
staying to that. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember a coach years ago saying to me that the inner knowing and which is like the inner radiance or the inner spark is the
Mm-hmm.
one thing that you can trust in this world. And I remember being someone who was developing that trust in myself
Mm.
because I had relied on trusting other people for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's another area of growth that people who are watching can lean into you for the strength that you have and the solid tool set to
Mm-hmm.
navigate these times with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trusting ourselves. And can you imagine I mean, that's truly with everything falling away, again, your certain job, your certain mortgage, your certain house, meaning I could count on it every single day, going away.
Hmm.
We get to trust that we can not just survive, but because this is what was coming in, like we can survive it, but not just survive it, that it actually is something that we can grow through. You know,
Yeah.
entrepreneurs know it really well because that's the journey of entrepreneurship. You never know what's going to happen, what's going to come.
Yep.
You could have a great plan and none of even in my business, right? So you spoke about like in daily life.
Hmm.
Yes, but I'm sure in your business too, like nothing ever works out the way that I plan it to,
Oh
ever.
no. Yeah, no. It's like constantly reinventing and what's showing up for you. How do I remember, one of the coaches, I think we had the same coach at the time, being like, okay, it's time to pivot. And me being like, how do I pivot?
Yeah. Yeah. How do I do
Right.
that?
Yeah. How do I pivot? How do I shift gears? And now
Yeah.
it's just like I go in and I'm like,
Automatic.
I don't need to know. It's just going to be created for me.
Yeah.
And then when you step into what's already been created for you in the moment, it's like the most potent, cool thing
Hmm.
that you can imagine. But the pathway there is just to be in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what I'm finding liberating is this permission to be human lately.
Hmm.
And that being human is, showing up to my with my clients and they're saying, this feels really challenging. And I'm like, well, so just feel it.
Yeah.
And just feel it and let it move through you. And
Yeah.
then as you feel it and you let it move through you, what happens is that spark becomes even brighter.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
that return to self and the
Hmm.
knowing of self becomes even stronger.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. This era in like, and when I say era, I mean like this moment in time, which could be, months, years, decades, depending on a person.
yeah,
It is
depending on your
about,
evolution. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. It is about us acknowledging that, what's coming up for me about it. Because in the past, I mean, not just even us, but like humans, first of all, they had no time to feel things because that truly was just survival. And then,
Go. Yeah,
yeah,
go. Point A to point B as fast as you can. White knuckle life. No time for feelings.
yeah, exactly. And
Mhm.
then it wasn't okay to feel like women in 50s or just this one example. But now we do, like our job is to allow that experience and know that in the moment, whatever is coming up is actually just an experience. Like nothing in the moment is dangerous unless there is somebody standing with a gun or a knife, of course, different
Mhm.
conversation. But there are things that we've been suppressing that we didn't want to feel because they didn't feel good. So speaking all the
Oh,
way back to the beginning of, I just want to
yeah.
feel good, you know?
Yes, yes,
Oh, no,
yes.
feel all the muck, feel
Feel
all the,
all
you
of it.
know?
Yeah, the muck is what I mean, I've learned to like the muck is good. The muck
Yeah,
is what it's like what's being kicked up so that like the good stuff can come forward.
yeah,
And we have been, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of people right now who are going through oh my gosh, right? Oh my
yeah,
goodness. And hoping that they find this, hoping that the light in this container is bright enough so that people come in and they say, "Oh, wait, this is a process. This is a life process.
yeah,
This isn't the end. It might be the end of a way, but it's the beginning."
yeah, yeah.
And wait, my
That's,
feelings are valid.
mhm,
They have
yeah,
power.
yeah. That's really huge. I forgot to ask you how long we're going for,
Do you have
a
do you have a
conversation.
thing?
At the top of the hour, I do. I'm like, oh,
Okay.
I forgot to ask her. So, but I think it's such a beautiful, and I know you and I could talk for like 2 hours easily. I think it's such a beautiful place to anchor into too. Instead of anchoring in or being swept by it's the end, which is what a lot of people are feeling.
Yeah.
People are scared, absolutely, and rightfully so, because so much of what we relied on for a long time is going away. So so shifting, feeling all the feels and then shifting like, wow, but truly every beginning, every end is a beginning of something else. What if I pointed my attention and kept my focus on
Beautiful.
aligned to, but what is this the beginning of?
Yes, that's awesome. That's that's perfect. I mean, that is exactly where we are. And
Mm-hmm.
starting to ask that question, what is this helping me begin? What am I
Yeah,
beginning? What am I beginning? And focus on
yeah,
the beginning. And as you focus on the beginning, the new, the
yeah,
why is this happening for
yeah,
me? It is
yeah,
happening for me, for a direction, for a shift that
mhm,
I've been asking for and to
yeah.
go for it
And responsibly. That's what's coming into
responsibly.
responsibly. Yeah. Like I'm responsible for it. It's not just gonna happen. Like I get to be
Got it.
the one who, like I mean, you speak to it, right? Like I get to be the version. I may get to let go of an identity.
Mhm.
So responsibly, like, yeah, it's created for me, but it's still not guaranteed. So
Mm,
I still get to be consciously engaged in it in a certain way.
yes.
And one way I speak to it is like the identity. What's the version of me that's living that beginning?
Being the bead you have.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
And the creator is the one who both has that spark and follows that spark and also is willing to do the action steps because nothing gets created until you're willing to say, okay, I'm going to show up.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going to show up.
yeah.
I'm going to do the podcast. I'm going to create the business. I'm going to, you know, be in the
Being,
action steps.
yeah, being comfortable, take a risk and face judgment, face whatever is happening inside of me and outside of me, because that's the only way we birth a new version is when we face it. And then,
Mm.
yeah, yeah,
Thanks for bringing that up. Awesome. It's big.
yeah.
It's big.
Hmm.
Anna, thank you so much. Yeah, we could talk for hours, and
I know.
I'm sure we'll set aside time in the future to just because
Mhm.
this has been invaluable, and thank you so
Mhm.
much. You have a free gift. Would you like to share that free gift?
Yeah, sure. So it's a way to get into my world, but also it's the three steps that I consistently play with in my life: power, purpose, and prosperity. So
Mhm.
it's about aligning yourself with one, the inner power. Who are you as the powerful creator? And then purpose. What is the direction that I'm going to consciously choose to focus on? And
Huge.
prosperity, being supported. We are beings that need resources. We do. We can't survive on air. We're not there yet. So, and we've learned to live with elements, but we still need shelter. So, power, purpose, and prosperity, it's like a 3-day journey where I tap into each one so you can begin to, so your audience, all of you listening, can
Yeah.
begin to tap into all three to begin to anchor into something that is inside of you versus being swept by whatever is happening on the outside.
Beautiful. So timely, powerful, and
Thank you.
prosperous. Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you,
Thank you
Kim.
guys for being here for the Inner Radiance podcast. This is a weekly podcast, and we will be back next week with our next guest. Bye, everyone.